The economy has become a central focus for voters and political parties alike. It is between the Conservative and Labour parties laying out different plans to fix the economy. One of the most pressing issues on the minds of British voters is the cost of living crisis, which has seen inflation soar to levels not seen in decades. The rising prices of essential goods and services coupled with stagnant wages have put a significant strain on household budgets, particularly for the most vulnerable segments of the society. What more do we need to know ahead of these elections? I'm being joined by a startup founder, the World Hackers, Mr. Olubenga Onifade. Good afternoon, Mr. Onifade. It's really good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Now, can we start with...
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yeah, can we start with discussions around the strength of the United Kingdom's economy ahead of this election? That seems to be the battleground for the political parties. What is really happening with regards to that?
Sure. So thanks for having me. We must say the economy has actually started bouncing back, and it has actually been resounding from what we had, which was a ludicrous presumption, even from the IMF, and with the UK lagging, and all of a sudden, I think we woke up to the UK being the fastest growing economy among the world's richest 7 countries in the world. I mean, it's just about 0.7, which is just about 0.2 points ahead of the United States of America, Japan, Germany, and the like. So we must say things have started coming back. Inflation is back to target. The baseline 2%, which the wealthy economies would like it to be. And unfortunately, though, people's pockets are still burning, and it's not reflected in their pockets. So it's one thing data is saying, but on the other side as well, the interest rate is still quite high. A lot of, people are still not feeling it in their pockets. Things are still very much unaffordable. People can still not buy their homes. And, people are still coming out with less, in other words. But if you look at the global or the macro side of things, things are good. It shows that the economy is actually just going back to the right path. And the government's plan is working whichever way we can see compared to the highs of 2022, 2023. So yes, we will say things are getting back. We had a mild recession, which lasted for just about 2 months. And again, we are back in the positive. We're not exactly where we would like to be, the United Kingdom, but we will say things are looking forward. But again, overall, how does it transmit or transfer to people's pockets? It's not exactly reflecting at the moment.
If that is happening in the UK, we talk about what we also face here in Nigeria. But I think records also shows that the recovery is faster or was faster than estimated in early 2024. GDP expanded 0.7% instead of other than 0.6% that was projected. But let's look at some sectors that witnessed growth. Services sector, the likes of the hairdressers, the hospitality sector, and all of that. Tell us, how has it been around that space? And also, the other side, those that are having a bit of decrease in figures, talking about manufacturing and all of that. How are all these sectors playing out in the entire economic space?
Yeah, that's a really good point there. Your big question you asked me there. So yes, there has been growth along that side, hospitality. But what actually led to the growth is, of course, you know that we've had a record high inflation, so they have been able to get employees on the cheap, and of course productivity is quite high. Unfortunately, if you look, so there is growth on that side, but their profit is actually reduced. So yes, they've been able to get more people, get them to work. They've been able to get more people on the cheap. I think one of the key quotes I heard was that of minimum wage. So of course, minimum wage was put out there as a control by the government so as not to be abused. But unfortunately, this actually been what the employers have actually been using as a maximum, as a baseline for, in terms of how they want to gauge wages. So yes, they've been able to put more people to use, but unfortunately, it hasn't been transmitting to spending. Like I said, again, not many people have been able to afford this spending. Manufacturing is actually shrunk. Again, the UK not a big manufacturing base anyway, but again, manufacturing is shrank. I think, and this is also because of, again, global macro policies, really, number one. Number two is oil. Oil is just gradually been coming down, but again, we've had unrest in the Middle East. We've had Russia to blame. I mean, how long are we going to hold on to this for? I really do not know. But of course, because of the high oil prices, which has come down by a little bit, but we are actually getting to grips with, we're just paying about £1.50 in prices for oil, petrol and diesel, which, the key question somebody asked earlier on was, do you think we'd ever see a less than £1 in petrol, which I don't think would ever happen again. So yes, things are going up. So on that side, things are expanding. Manufacturing is not picking up as fast as people would like it to be. But again, like I said, due to controls and prices outside the factors of of the key players really, and of course US tried to come in place of Russia, but you can't pay the price. You can't buy the crude oil from the United States at the same price you get it from Russia. So that is actually being passed on. The price has been passed on to the retailers and the buyers, really, unfortunately. So yes, while things are expanding, but unfortunately the output is still fairly gloom. And again, even though we're talking about the GDP, which is now in the positive, I think one thing we need to understand, we don't need to start popping champagne yet. It's only just 0.1 above the target, so it's not beating what the speculators and analysts have said. So it's not exactly as great as yet, unfortunately. No.
Interest rates are also currently in their highest. It's in like 16 years, according to figures that we have, at 5.25%. That's obviously that is really high. And of course, let's look at people that are into mortgages and loans and all of that. How are they coping at this time?
Right. So interest rates is quite high. You're right. The highest has been in 16 years. But unfortunately, that had to come in because inflation was the highest in 40 years. This has actually been, the age-old working of central banks. When inflation is high, we're going to have to raise interest rate so as to reduce spending. And again, unfortunately, that transmits to people's pockets. You cannot afford to pay your mortgage, number one. I think one of the key things the government has done, which you probably say it's I wouldn't call it scoring an own goal, but again, instead of you paying your mortgage, you just pay an interest only on the to the lenders. So that's one way so that way you keep it keeps you in the jobs, and again you are still deferring your longevity for your mortgage. So that's one way to look at it in a way to say, okay, we can diffuse this problem this way. That's number one. But another pointer is that yes, you're right, interest rates is quite high. It's not going to come down any soon. I think we're expecting it to come down maybe next month a little bit, turn it down a notch, and then I think there's the Bank of England is saying, we're looking at middle of 2025, 2026 before it comes down by a lot more. But we don't think we're ever going to see the lows of 2020 anymore. So that's one. Again, for you to be able to buy your property, people are looking at saving. I think it's about 4 or 5 times your property. You should be able to buy a property worth 4 or 5 times your annual earnings. But right now, properties are, we're talking about the basic starting properties are about 10 times your earnings, and people are supposed to be able to pay 10% as a deposit. Not many people can afford that. So a lot of people now are turning to the bank of mom and dad. Mom and dad are getting squeezed. So, and more people are spending more time with their parents. So again, mortgages are unaffordable. That's one thing the Prime Minister said he will try to work on. We said we can start building on the green belt, which has been reserved. But people are saying, you've been saying this thing for the last 14 years, as a conservative. Hence why people are trying to shift to Labour, who's, Labour hasn't really exactly got a new plan. I mean, he's been, going back and forth in terms of what he will try to do. So the plans are not exactly that clear. I mean, we're talking about the two key parties. But again, everything seems to be on a high. even though we've got Conservative as the party who's in charge, the key Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, for some reason, and this is not a personal opinion, just based on data, whatever plan is seems to have been put in place seems to be working. But again, there's other one thing there. I mean, he's a billionaire, really, and people are saying you do not understand how the normal common person feel. Conservatives, they withdraw the money from the people. They encourage spending, withdraw the money, and of course they encourage wealth generation. While Labour, on the other hand, they tend to do a lot of spending. I think I remember many years ago, I mean, these things tend to get on the political side. What Labour said was there's no more money and we probably would have to tax the people, which is a little bit akin to what people call the socialist agenda. People are not too sure, even though we've had a party here now for the past 14 years. I think we're paying the highest tax in generations. But again, people's pockets are shrinking. People just think, no matter what, they just want a change because people are just getting poorer. They're getting paid less. The economy is shrinking. We had a little bit of good news right now, but people are not still playing ball right now, and it's just not good news.
I must thank you so much for your analysis. As usual, I've been speaking to startup founder, the World Hackers, Mr. Olugbenga Onifade. Joined us live from the United Kingdom. Do enjoy your weekend. Thank you.